Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and talents for each spec of rogues and all the classes for Legion have come out for the beta. All these talents are due to change, but I do want to take a look at them and basically see what would be the best for PvP off the bat. I have taken a look at maybe a half of them, and I'm going to explain them all to you in best detail as I can. What are they supposed to be doing? How would I line them up? And which one do I think is best for PvP off the top of my head? A lot of them are competitive, so it's really hard to decide which one is better. But let's take a look at them, and let's take a look what could be really good for Outlaw. Again, everything is subject to change. I will do subtlety and assassination as well as in-depth as I did for combat. And we also will have extra abilities such as class abilities and specialization abilities on the side for me to, I guess, use to my example. Level 15, we have Ghostly Strike, Swordmaster, and Quick Draw. Two of them are passive, one is an active ability. Basically, how would you increase the damage that you deal? You have Ghostly Strike, which is dedicated 60 energy, but once you use it, you generate a calm point onto your enemy, deal physical damage, and enemies take 10% damage for 15 seconds from all of your abilities. That's auto attacks, as well as calm point generation abilities and calm point spending abilities. This could be great if you can use a bunch of abilities to stack a bunch of debuffs of damage increases onto your target, and if you are able to... This damage 10% increase only comes from your abilities. It doesn't apply to other people, so in team-based situations this would be interesting. Then we have Swordmaster, which is Saber Slash has an additional 50% chance to trigger a second instant Saber Slash. So Saber Slash on its own has a 35% chance to strike an additional time, so you'll be increasing that chance by 15% more. Then you would have 50% chance, so every second Saber Slash statistically would give you extra damage. Passively, I would want to go with Swordmaster off the bat because it seems like more Saber Slash damage would be something that would utilize often. But we also have Quick Draw. Free use of Pistol Shot granted by Saber Slash now generates one additional calm point and deals 50% increased damage. So every time you use Saber Slash, you generate one extra. You have a chance to give yourself a Pistol Shot, and that every time you get the free Pistol Shot, you generate an extra calm point out of it, and it deals 50% more damage. Off the bat, I would want to say Swordmaster is great against melee type of cleaves, where you just train down a target. It also depends how much energy regeneration will you have, how many of Saber Slashes can you get back to back in a row. Quick Draw seems to be good against range, melee kind of combination of cleaves, or maybe against classes that kite you. So you can, swoop in there, get as many Saber Slashes in there, get Quick Draw proc, and get free Pistol Shot for extra common points and deal more damage. And then you can use abilities like Run Through in order to get, close the gap again. But Ghostly Strike seems to be an interesting one. I feel like Ghostly Strike would be the meta in the end, after people figure out how to manage their energy and when you would use this ability, because it is a lot of energy, so it's very highly taxing on you. I feel like Swordmaster is something I would go through off the top of my head, just as a comfortable ability. But all three of them are competitive, so it's really hard to decide. Level 30 is our mobility tree in a way. We have Grappling Hook. Launches Grappling Hook to pull yourself to the target location. Doesn't say if friendly on enemy targets, so I'm going to guess it's enemy, just to be safe. If it is friendly, it only buffs this ability. But it's basically like almost like a crappy version of Shadow Step. Shadow Step allows you to step to your target at a 24 second, cooldown. They might have increased it because Shadow Step is going to have an ability just for assassination rogues. So if they did increase it, and it's equal to Grappling Hook, then it's basically the same ability. If Grappling Hook grips yourself to a friendly target as well, then it's basically the same ability, and it's amazing. Great ability for arenas in order to get swaps out, and if it does grapple you to friendly targets, you can get out of some really heavy AoE shit that could come up in PvP. We're not sure what Legion is going to be all about, but Warlord's Trainer had a lot of AoE-based abilities, so that could have been useful. Acrobatic Strikes increase all range of all melee attacks by 3 yards. So all of your melee attacks, and especially like Sword Master, if you're able to chase after the target, get some sort of speed buff, and then Acrobatic Strikes over and over and over, you can kite your enemies almost with 3 yards extra range. I could see this used against other classes if you can slow them and kite them at the same time. That would be interesting to apply, and so far I want to roll with it just to see how it rolls, just to see how it runs, and I would want to test this as soon as I can. Then we have Into the Fray, increase movement speed at all times by 15%. You should note that as a Outlaw rogue, you always have fleet-footed. Movement speed increased by 15%, and you take reduced falling damage. You already have 15% movement speed, so that is staying in Legion. So this is 15% extra. I wonder how this is going to act with slows, if it's going to make slows less effective on you. If the slows completely counter this, then this is kind of useless in arenas. I feel like acrobatic strikes, if slows are going to be countering, movement speed completely, acrobatic strikes would be a better option because you can still get some range onto your target and maybe even kite around pillars. Grappling hook is an interesting one, great for swaps, so I feel like that one's kind of justified. So Into the Fray could be just as amazing as the rest of them, or Into the Fray could be like less viable. I'm hoping is the better version rather than lesser, because 15% increased movement speed at all times sounds insanely amazing. It's hard to decide which one I like most. At level 45, we have an interesting talent tree because that's the only one that all 3 specs of rogues share. So we take a look at them. Deeper Stratagem allows you to generate maximum 6 comp points, and that means your finishers have 6 comp points usage. That does mean we get a back-to-back like kidney type of 6 comp point usage for 7 seconds of stun. On top of it, abilities that an Outlaw does utilize from this is, let me take a look at it, Slice and Dice. More seconds of 40 increased attack speed. Between the Eyes, get more damage in and 6 seconds stun rather than 5 at range. Then we have Run Through, that deals more damage. Question is, that means you need to spend an extra Saber Slash to generate combo points. And yes, you can get Saber Slash and then maybe even free pistol shots here and there. So maybe energy combo point generation is pretty fairly simple and easy for Outlaw. I'd go with this off the bat, not even reading what the other ones do. But with 50 energy consumption for Saber Slash, I feel like it's going to be harder to generate 6 combo points back to back. It's pretty simple to generate 5 of them back to back, but 6 I'm not quite sure. That being said, the question is there more utility in quality or quantity? Because let's say I could get 4 or 5 run-throughs using 5 combo points. Are 4 or 5 run-throughs better than like 3 or 4, say run-throughs, 4 or 5 of them at 5 combo points? 4 or 5 run-throughs at 5 combo points, is that better than 4, 6 combo point Deeper Stratagem run-throughs? That is the question. It's like the question of, is it better to just get lots of 5 combo point finishers out there, CC based, offensive based, even defensive based, or is it better just to get the quality out of them? And it just depends how the arena will work. If it'll be fast paced, slow paced, there'll be more of a setup type of mechanic that will allow you to play this way, or if there just won't be enough time to set up. So Deeper Stratagem could either be amazing or crap. Anticipation, they made it more competitive because it's not on a tree where you would grab Mark for Death. Increases the maximum combo points you have by 3, so you can have 8 on you, but you'll still only consume maximum of 5 combo points. That one is interesting for setups, a lot like Deeper Stratagem, because you can get 5 combo points and generate 2 extra, and then finisher, and then you can just kind of go off of that. It gives you more of a layaway. But I didn't use up Anticipation when it generated extra 5 combo points to save up on a finisher. So I never used it when it had 5 extra combo points to save up. I don't know if I'll end up using it at 3, but it is more competitive because you can take this and Mark for Death together. So that makes it for interesting gameplay. Then we have Vigor, which I think will benefit Outlaw immensely, and that I gotta do through gotta find myself Vitality. So Vigor increases your maximum energy by 50%, by 50, and your base energy regeneration by 10. You already have high energy regen from Vitality, increase your energy regen by 20, so that'll be 30. So that can be very useful. I feel comfortable with Vigor. On top, I would give you 50 more energy. That means if you have 100 to start with, that means 3 Saber Slashes. It means after 3 Saber Slashes, you have maybe extra procs of Saber Slash, and then you have your pistol shots that can be applied there. So in a single energy output of just expanding it, you can actually get a lot of abilities out and a lot of combo point building. So I feel comfortable with this one. It does seem better than Deeper Stratagem to me at the beginning. I don't like Anticipation that much, but it could be amazing. Off the top of my head, I would say Vigor is probably the only thing that I'm comfortable with of selecting. Deeper Stratagem could be amazing, but I really am happy Vigor is there, and just I feel like it would benefit Outlaw immensely. At level 60, we have Iron Stomach, which is something I need to go into class abilities to show you. Crimson Vial, healing potions and health zones heal you for 50% extra. Crimson Vial is cost energy, 30%, 30 energy for 30-second cooldown. Can't be used in flight form. That's weird. A chemical concoction that instantly heals you for 30% of maximum health. So instead of recuperate, we have a basically instant recuperate. You use up 30 energy, 30-second cooldown, and you heal yourself for 30% extra of healing. And Iron Stomach will allow you to do that. Off the top of my head, I want to say Iron Stomach is great for duels and maybe 2v2 arenas where you need some healing. But the question is it better than Elusiveness? Because it is in combination with Elusiveness. If you're running like a Warlock-based comp and you have Hellstones and then Crimson Vial, you may be able to use that for self-heals. Maybe like with a Warlock, you can use Iron Stomach. So you have Crimson Vial and Hellstone for the heal that you may be able to apply to yourself in a 2v2 arena. Outside of that, I feel like Elusiveness is still better. Reduces all damage taken by 30%. It again depends how fast and how much damage we take and how fast do people die in arenas. If it's a lot of burst damage and people die quickly, I feel like Elusiveness might either save you or might even be useless. I'm not quite sure yet, because Iron Stomach does seem interesting, but I like the variety that they gave us. We have an insane heal, still same damage reduction, and then Cheat Death, which they have nerfed it to be triggered only once every 2 minutes. I feel like Cheat Death I wouldn't even roll with off the top of my head. It's basically going to be Elusiveness, I feel like, off the top. But maybe Iron Stomach and the heal of its own would be just much better. We just never know. We also have, level 75, we have the CC-based capability. Parlay, 35 energy, pacifies the target who is forced to negotiate instead of fighting for 60 seconds. Only works in humanoids, demons, dragonkins. Damage will break the piece and limit one target. So this is basically an in-combat sap. My question is, can this be used in PvP like a sap? It doesn't say the target cannot be in combat or anything. So maybe I can apply this in order to blind a target, then parlay a target. So basically sap without having to go into stealth. So that could be immensely amazing in PvP off the top of my head, because you have a sap that can be used while they're in combat. Prayer of the Week is the same thing. On your stuns and on the CC, you deal 10% extra damage. This is only for Outlaw rogues, by the way. Prayer of the Week, no other specs get it. So this only makes us viable in terms of arenas, because we can get that 10% extra damage from all sources, apply Ghost Strike together, so we deal 20% damage to them, and we haven't even discussed the buffs, the red buffs, red, green, and yellow buffs. I don't think we even have them anymore. So Insight might even be gone from the game, but we can deal 20% damage to our target in a stun with Ghost Strike applied as well. Dirty Tricks is an interesting one. Gouge and Blind no longer cost energy and no longer break from damage over time. All damage over time. So if you're playing with a Warlock-based team and you're just rotting the healer, right? You have doubts on everybody. If you sap the healer or blind him and gouge him, they're still rotting, but they're CC'd at the same time, so it gives you more opportunities for swap. I feel like this one is interesting because we don't have that many dots as a Outlaw on our own. So this is great with a team-based comp that has a lot of dot-based mechanic. This is basically an arena-based ability, and it applies only there. I don't see myself using it in Battlegrounds on my own. I feel like Parlay would be something I would go off of the top of my head, just because it sounds awesome. It basically forces enemy into the sap, but Prayer in the Week could be just as amazing in arena, since we are the only spec that should technically have this kind of deal. We'll check out Assassination Subtlety as well, but Parlay just sounds too freaking cool. Level 90, we have Killing Spree as a talent. So Killing Spree is no longer a base ability. We all know Killing Spree and we all love it, but the question is Alacrity or Cannonball Barrage better? Are they better than Killing Spree? Killing Spree can now be CC'd by even Roots and Slows. That is something they have added into Legion. So this might have just made Killing Spree useless. Imagine you starting to Killing Spree and a warrior just accidentally hamstrings you. You cancel your Killing Spree. It made sense if they feared you or stunned you or used some other CC in order to break Killing Spree. But a slow to stop Killing Spree? I mean, talk about getting winded. So this Killing Spree is a talent. It is an interesting decision by Blizzard to make it a talent. Originally in MOP, they made Vendetta, Killing Spree, and Shadow Dance talents for all three specs of rogues. So I like this. That's a talent, and I want to see what it compares with. Alacrity, you finish moves have 20% chance per combo point to grant haste, 1% haste for 20 seconds, stacking up to 25 times. So you could have 25% extra haste. That is if your finisher moves, if you're able to, spend a lot of finisher moves. I feel like that's technically possible with Outlaw Rogue. I feel like that's for a very slow playstyle in arenas, but this amount of haste could really snowball. Off the top of my head, I want to say this isn't good for PvP, just because in a BG situation where you're not always fighting somebody, generating that extra haste is going to take a very long time. And that's only 1% stacking up to 25 times. This is amazing in PvE, where you have more control. PvP-wise, I feel like this is kind of terrible. Well, not terrible, but it's not as good. It's not as quick. Cannonball Barrage is an interesting one. It's a channeled ability for 1.8 seconds, 60-second cooldown. Command a ghost ship to barrage the target area with cannonballs, dealing physical damage and slowing enemies. This could be amazing. This could be crappy as well. It's a 60-second cooldown, so that's your burst. I would want to guess it would be a lot like that of a meteor, the meteor ability for Fire Mage, where it just bombs the target area, I think, every 1 minute or so. And it should be a lot of damage on its own in terms of burst. Question is just how often would I be able to line it up? I like the 60-second cooldown, so every 1 minute I can use it, and the fact that it's channeled, I don't think it's too much of an issue, because you can slow down a target or stun them, smoke bomb, and a cannon barrage. I feel like, because Killing Spree is CCable by everything, and I don't think we have an ability where we regenerate our finishers every time we use, every time we spend combo points. Since we don't have that, as far as I understand, even as perks, it's not a capability. I feel like Killing Spree is just out of the picture, because Cannonball you can use more than once. It seems to deal a decent amount of damage, unless Killing Spree damage just outblows Cannon Barrage out of the water. Off the top of my head, I want to see Cannon Barrage, just because we could go with Killing Spree, or we could go with a new thing, Cannon Barrage, and give that a try. I would definitely want to try it. That'd be the first thing I'd go for. And Alacrity sounds interesting, but I feel like it's just so slow. I'm actually surprised I even have preferences. Like the first two trees, I'm just happy the fact that I don't have a preference whatsoever. Vigor, Looseness, Parlay, and Cannibal Barrage. I guess that makes sense. At level 100, we have a whole new change up. Roll the Bones is a finisher. It's basically like a slice and dice, 25 energy, spends combo points. Finisher move that rolls the dice of fate, providing a random combat enhancement. The question is, how good are these combat enhancements? That could be a OP. That could be useless, and plus it has an RNG because it's a random combat enhancement. So that'd be interesting if you're just able to roll the bones a couple times and get yourself a 30-second buff, 30-second buff, and a 30-second buff, apply them together, and just snowball your enemy. I want to see what the buffs are in order to judge this ability, so I'm not even going to mark it, but it's an interesting concept. I like it. Mark for Death instantly generates 5 combo points on the target, cooldown resets if target dies. It's weird that it's on the same tree as Death from Above. It feels weird because now it's an actual competitive choice. I feel like that's a really good one off the top of my head, just because 5 combo points, you can do so much with it. Death from Above, it's I guess a situation of like roll the bones. It's a question of just how powerful is it. So if basically it's a question of Death from Above or roll the bones. Is Death from Above that much of damage that it'd just be intense? It'd be able to finish off a target? And Combat Rogues didn't utilize it in WoD that often in arenas. Or you normally wouldn't, unless you got a red debuff, but we don't even have red buff here. If it deals a lot of damage with maximum potential for combo points, maybe even grab Deep Stratagem to deal extra, that could be maybe a one-shot. If it isn't, I feel like Roll the Bones is better, because it just gives you different passives. Maybe it can give you like healing passive, damage over time passive, speed buffs and such. I want to say Mark for Death is a safer option, just because generating 5 combo points is so much utility, and you can apply it into anything. Whether you need damage, whether you need CC, whether you need even just to get a full heal, but we don't even have Recuperate, so that's useless. Mark for Death literally became less powerful because we don't have Recuperate, but because we have Crimson Vial. We don't need the combo points. So it's a very competitive choice. I want to say Roll the Bones is something I would want to try. Death from Above, I want to see the damage of it in-game, and just how much damage output I can put on, and just how many buffs can I stack in order to deal most damage with Death from Above. Otherwise, Mark for Death seems like a best option in terms of arena CC. It seems vanilla, so that one is pretty reliable, but I would want to roll the bones. We take a look at major glyphs, and there's none. Basically, most of the minor glyphs, they're all the same. Decoy, Detection, Hemo, Distract, Picklock, everything is the same. It seems like it's weird that Killing Spree is a minor glyph, even though Killing Spree is a talent. But only minor glyphs in the game, no longer major glyphs. They might add more in the future, but this is everything that is for Outlaw Rogues. On the other hand, let's take a look at another ability, Extraction Point, 60-second cooldown, teleports the caster to Hall of Shadows, which is where the Extraction Point Hall of Shadows will be for Rogue in terms of their class halls. So I was thinking that was actually an ability for movement, but no. We still have Feign, Detect Traps, Safe Fall, Cloak of Shadows. We are losing Combat Readiness, and we have Evasion. One thing that's a benefit to Outlaw Rogues that I saw, we have... what is their name? Riposte. Riposte is basically like dab with the sword, but every time we parry, we deal damage back to the target. It's basically the same thing as dab with the sword. You parry in front of you for 100%. So we are losing combat readiness, and I see there's not many defensive abilities in terms of talents. That is something to consider when we take a look at other specs, and when you take a look at the talents yourselves for other classes. Otherwise, basically everything is the same. Also to mention, Outlaw is the only spec that will have Blind and Gouge. Other specs are losing it completely. Outlaw Blind will have instant 20-second cooldown. As far as I understand, no energy consumption on it as well. So it'd be sick to combo Blind and then parlay back to back for some energy too. But this is really it for Outlaw. Discussed everything I could in as much detail as possible, so hopefully you guys do enjoy. I'll put it out on YouTube as soon as I can. I'm gonna go take a look at the other specs right now and do some theory crafting here and there. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. My name is Dalaran. I am excited for Outlaw changes, and I really want to see what this is like. I want to test out all the talents. Let me know what you think about your talents and some of the playstyles you can come up with off the top of your head after watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Also, I'll have the link for this all down below.